Okay, so one of you asked me to make a video about how individuals who are subject to removal from the United States could protect their assets in the United States, like property, cars, etc. And so bear with me, this is going to be a long video here. I'd like to address this comprehensively. How can you be prepared in general in case you're detained by ICE, including protecting your assets, your kids, and having access to counsel? So first things first, access to counsel. Nonprofits are excellent. They have excellent attorneys and do great work. The problem is that they are usually at capacity, and even more so now, and sometimes don't respond or take a long time to get back to you. And if you're detained, you need an attorney immediately. So one, right now, if you have funds saved somewhere, you need to add a cosigner to your account, a trusted family member or friend who has access to those funds for two purposes. One, to hire a private attorney, and it should be a local attorney where you are detained or as local as possible. And two, to pay your bond. That's right. If you're detained by immigration, in certain cases, you might be subject to a bond to get out of detention. And that bond can range anywhere from $2,500 to $25,000, and that is paid in full. It is not like a criminal bond where you just pay a percentage, right? You have to pay that bond in full. So right now, if you have savings, you should name somebody or give somebody access to those savings immediately so that there is no delay in hiring you an attorney and being able to pay your bond. Now, why do I suggest naming someone as a cosigner on your account versus, for example, setting up a power of attorney? Powers of attorney can be excellent, but you have to have them done right. So you need it done by an estate planning attorney in your state who knows the laws. What this means is that there's a barrier to access there, right? And so if you don't have the funds or the time to set up that power of attorney, then the next kind of best option is to go ahead and just name a cosigner on your accounts. You could add somebody to your deed, right, on a house, so that they can sell your house in case you are removed from the United States. Same with your car. You can put them on the title to your car so that they can sell your car. Again, powers of attorney are great if you're able to do it well. Don't do it online. A lot of the times those are not accepted by the entities that you're trying to, use it with. So a bank is going to look at something gotten off of, some online platform and say, sorry, this is done incorrectly. And then you've wasted that time and money. And now you don't have somebody set up as a cosigner on your account. They don't have access to funds. You're outside of the US. So you can't set up that power of attorney with a local attorney in your state. If you do have the resources to do that, then set that up now. You can go ahead and get your powers of attorney set up now. But if not, the next best option, like I said, is just going ahead and naming trusted people as like co-owners of those assets with you so that they are at liberty to do with them what needs to be done in case of your removal from the United States. Now, I was also asked about trusts, right? Should I set up a trust and name a trustee? Now, I'm not an estate planning attorney, and if you have a large estate, then I do suggest you go and consult with an estate planning attorney, again, in your state, who could better advise you. That being said, keep in mind that trusts are normally in the case of death. Right? How do you dispose of your assets in the case of death or incapacity? Not necessarily in the case of removal. I know, however, that there are certain like foreign asset protection trusts, etc. But again, these are going to cost thousands of dollars to set up. So unless you have a very large estate, it might not be worth it. And I don't know that it would protect you in case of removal because the majority of trusts have to do with, being incapacitated or having passed away. And that's why I always tend to revert back to just giving somebody access now as a co-owner of your assets who then is in the US, is a rightful owner and can dispose of those assets accordingly. Now moving on to children, right? Which is also a very, if not the most important issue. Who is going to care for your children and how do you make a plan for that? Well, you should have emergency contacts set up at any school or daycare or facility that your child attends in case one day, unfortunately, you are detained, you are unable to come pick them up. Now, this is also going to vary state by state, but for example, I know in Illinois, there's something called a standby guardianship, and that standby guardianship is exactly what it sounds like. It is a guardianship in case you are incapacitated, you're not around, and somebody needs to step in. Different states have different rules. Generally, there's going to be some type of temporary guardianship form that does not require going to court. You need to look into that, and that is probably something that, is going to require going to a family or probate attorney to get more information about regarding your state's rules, because the children are subject to the jurisdiction of the state where they live, right? And so if, for example, you live in California, then a guardianship from New York is not going to be valid. So it needs to be state specific. You also have to be aware of specific state options. I think in California, there's a caregiver authorization affidavit, which is, I believe, a temporary measure. It doesn't affect your parental rights, but is a temporary measure that gives people certain authorization to act on your child's behalf. Okay. But these things definitely need to be put in place in order to avoid your children or child going into foster care and becoming wards of the state. That becomes then very difficult to get them, to reunite with you in your home country if that's what you want. Now, you should also, consult with the co-parent, for example. If you are not together with the other biological parent, this becomes a custody issue now. Definitely consult with a family attorney. I could go on and on about that, but there should be some custody arrangement in place or agreed to in case you are no longer able to exercise, your rights being in the state. And, you want to set up some type of visitation outside of the country. So that's kind of my spiel on how you can be generally prepared in case of detention. I hope none of you or anybody that you know ever needs this. Make sure your family is aware of your plan, where all these papers are, again, how to get access to them, talk about it openly with them. You could even name, if you do not have family in the US, in some cases, an attorney or another entity to carry out those functions for you. Again, that would require consulting with an appropriate estate planning attorney in your state. Please share this if you know anybody who could benefit it, and I hope that this helps and answers your questions about some of the practical things that can be done.